The first relationship, the beloved lover, the pregnancy. Everything seemed to be going well, pointing to a bright future. But surprisingly, this love story's protagonist disappeared without a trace. The child's father, a young guy, found it hard to believe that his fairy tale would end so suddenly. The whole Dominican Republic was engulfed in anguish when the events of Emily's disappearance came to light. Located on the island of Hispaniola, the Dominican Republic is a Caribbean country. The nation is well known for its golf courses, beaches, and resorts. But in 2017, the world started talking about the Dominican Republic and its current legal system. One 16-year-old girl was to blame for all of this. Emmy Dylan Peguero, also known as Emily by her friends, was born on July 12, 2001, in Seneve, a village around an hour's drive from the Dominican Republic's capital, Santo Domingo. In the family of Adalgiza and Jado, Emily was the youngest. She was treated like a baby by her older siblings, who never stopped sheltering her from adversity as she got older. Emily, who had cute dimples and was pretty, happy, and kind, wanted to be a lawyer when she grew up. The youngster had a strong desire to help others who couldn't afford the high cost of legal representation. She grew up in a low-income family and planned to do pro bono work in the future. Emily was very compassionate and constantly wanted to make a difference in the world. Greetings from Unseen True Crime Story Headquarters. I appreciate your support as we continue to grow and provide both untold and told real crime tales every day, viewers and subscribers in particular. Reminder, remember to subscribe to this channel. The Pedros lived in a modest, charming home with a flat roof, shuttered windows, and a painting of a sun-faded butterfly on the front wall. In order to provide for their family, her parents had to work a variety of low-paying occupations. Even though the girl's life was devoid of luxury, she was always given the necessities. Her personality and disposition were unaffected by the family's poor finances. Emily spent a lot of time with her friends and family, was outgoing, and did well in school. She liked putting on makeup on stage, dressing up, and performing for her loved ones. When her parents saw their youngest daughter happy and dancing, all of their financial difficulties seemed insignificant. Despite the challenges they encountered, Emily's family was really happy. Her parents did all in their power to show their kids love and care, and they were very successful at it. Emily began seeing a guy called Marlon Martinez, who was 18 at the time when she turned 15. The young guy and Emily lived in quite separate worlds, despite the fact that their families resided across the street. The young people's relationship started off as a loving friendship after they had known one another since they were young. Marlon was born in the United States, and his family moved back to the Dominican Republic when he was 8 or 9 years old. They live across the street from Emily in a big home with a lovely front yard. Their financial situation was very different. Due to their considerable wealth, the boy's mother and stepfather sent him to a renowned school outside of town. Marlon Martinez's mother was a well-known and active member of the political community. She had even served as the province's mayor at one time. Currently, the lady worked for the government, providing passports and visas and taking part in several municipal initiatives. She thus had a lot of beneficial contacts in the community. At the local level, Marlon had a lot of authority. Many individuals were indebted to Marlon because of accusations that she unlawfully helped others acquire visas. Because there was always some patron, she was never held responsible for this. To be honest, Marlon wasn't the most amiable guy in real life. Emily's father had previously served as Marlon's private security guard and was aware of how combative and irritable this lady could be. She somehow believed that she could treat people any way she wanted since she had wealth and influence. Because she was a nefarious person, Marlon thought she was a level above everyone else and could get away with anything. In private, the residents of the town referred to her as the devil. The mom often required help taking care of her 3 boys, including Marlon, since she was always preoccupied with politics and advancing her profession. She made arrangements with her neighbor Emily's mother to watch the kids for a set price in order to avoid employing a particular babysitter. After bringing the lads over, Marlon would go out to take care of business. Through their shared playing, the kids from the 2 families soon became friends. The Martinezes sometimes even spent the night at their neighbor's house. This suggested that Marlon left her boys in the care of Adalgisa, Emily's mother, since she had a great deal of faith in her. Additionally, the families were quite close in spite of their class differences. All of the kids regarded one another like family, since Marlon and his siblings used to visit the neighbor's home often. They used to play together when they were little, but as they grew older, they saw each other much less often and only crossed paths once. And they started talking again when Emily was 15 and Marlon became 18. They originally spent time together before starting a romantic relationship. Since Emily was seen as a juvenile and the age of consent in the Dominican Republic is 18, many were taken aback by the age gap. Because of Marlon, the young man's mother, the girl's family disapproved of the connection as well. The residents of the same neighborhood detested the haughty lady even more when she got into a confrontation with another neighbor recently over a trivial matter. But spite of Marlon's mother's personality, he was simply an ordinary, kind man. One might argue that Adalgisa had been a part of his childhood for a number of years. Since Emily's father was aware of Marlon's contempt for the less fortunate, he refrained from interfering. He didn't want to argue with his daughter, who was obviously in love, but he also couldn't prevent the connection. The guy just felt uneasy because of his neighbor's irritable disposition. Emily was going to turn 16 in 2017. Everything seemed to be going well, and she and Marlon resumed their romance. However, something startling happened in the spring. The girl didn't immediately realize what was happening, but she felt a little ill. Given his age, her partner made a rapid assumption as to what may have occurred. Their suspicions were validated after a number of tests, and Emily became aware that she was pregnant. The young couple was taken aback by this. The problem is that in the Dominican Republic, it is illegal to end a pregnancy in any way. Emily was thus aware that she would eventually have to give birth to the kid. In 2012, abortion was made illegal in the Dominican Republic, a nation with a large Catholic population. People who helped with these operations, such as medical personnel, friends, and family, were subject to prison terms. Emily was still very young. She was also concerned that she lacked the resources to nurture a future kid. However, she was comforted by her partner. She was scared to tell her parents since she didn't sure how they would respond to the news. However, there was no need in waiting any longer. After collecting her thoughts, Emily informed her mother and sister about the pregnancy. It took her father, Genaro, 5 months to learn about it. He once returned home for lunch with his family while on a work break. The guy asked his wife what had occurred after seeing her strained expression in the kitchen. When he learned that his youngest daughter was 5 months pregnant, Adalgisa startled him. How did it happen that a child was going to have a child? The guy said, gripping his head. He was so taken aback by this news that he was unable to relax for the first 30 minutes. After gathering himself, Genaro said he would speak with the soon-to-be young parents, but requested some time to process the information. The most heartbreaking aspect was that Genaro found out about his daughter's pregnancy only 9 days before to her disappearance. As father and daughter, they just did not have the time to sit down and converse. A week or so later, Genaro was contacted by Roberto, Marlon's stepfather, who proposed that they meet to talk about the future child's care. The individual consented to the meeting, and he had an open discussion with Roberto and Marlon. The young guy informed the father of his fiancée that he planned to care for Emily and assume responsibility for the child. Roberto stepped in as well and pledged to do all in his power to support his stepson. Genaro was slightly reassured by this conversation, but he was still unable to accept the fact that his little daughter would become a mother. The guy stipulated that because Emily was a minor, she and the kid would remain with her family, and that the infant would be cared for alternately by both families. Despite the pregnancy, Genaro still thought of Emily as a kid and had no plans to let her go. The father believes she should continue to live with him until she is at least 18. Padu will stand by his daughter no matter what because he loved her. Roberto backed him in this arrangement, which Marlon seemed to approve of. Marlon, Emily's mother, was the only one who was really upset about Emily's pregnancy. This situation did not satisfy her in the least. She believed that her son was making a grave error by letting this youngster disrupt his college coursework and destroy his promising future. Marlon was also extremely worried about the image of her own family, since she didn't want rumors that the Martinezes were now associated with the underprivileged to spread. The lady had ignored her son's relationship with this girl, but she couldn't bear the thought of them having a kid together. Emily, 16, woke up early on August 23, 2017, and got ready to go someplace. She told her mother that Marlon had promised to take her to a doctor's visit so that test results could be obtained. Adalgisa walked her daughter to the front door and watched as Emily climbed into her boyfriend's vehicle after the girl promised to stay gone for a very short while. The lady went about her daily business, cleaning the home, making breakfast, and had even begun making lunch when they left. She noticed then that her daughter was still not home, which was strange since Emily had said she would be back in an hour. Her daughter always told her parents if she was going anywhere. She always specified when she would get home and would either phone or leave a message if she was going to be late. But for a few hours, Emily had not been heard from, which worried her mother a little. Then Emily's sister got a text message at around 11:30. The girl wrote that she chose to meet with her uncle, so Marlon left her at a petrol station. Emily's letter should have comforted her family, but instead it made them more anxious. First of all, the girl preferred voice conversations over text messages and had never sent one before. Second, whose uncle did she abruptly choose to meet with after not even bringing it up before? Thirdly, Emily didn't sound like the message's tone. Everything about this felt so odd and incorrect. To find out where Emily had disappeared to, Adalgisa dispatched her older daughter to Marlon's. The Martinez family was still residing in the home next door when the girl crossed the street and knocked on the door. After opening the door, the young guy started to describe the circumstances. Emily allegedly discovered she had misread the dates and that her test results wouldn't be available until Friday as they were leaving for the clinic in the morning. The pregnant girl had managed to set up a meeting with her uncle, so she requested to be dropped off at a gas station rather than returning home. Marlon concurred. The kid believed that this was the last time he would see his lover, so he dropped Emily off at the gas station, gave her some cash in case she needed it, and made sure she got in her uncle's vehicle, which had at least driven up. Adalgisa went to the petrol station with her elder daughter to ask the staff if they had any idea where the girl's automobile had disappeared to. The ladies asked to see the security camera video when they arrived at the station. Emily and Marlon had not been at the petrol station that morning, it turned out. The young guy was either lying for some reason or he had just mispronounced the name. But Marlon continued to swear that he had taken the girl there. Emily wasn't taking calls herself. Adalgisa wasted little time in reporting the disappearance of her pregnant, minor daughter to the authorities. She started handing out brochures, including Emily's picture alongside her other kids. The mom didn't want to waste any more time and wanted her kid to go home as soon as possible. At first, the girl's family didn't believe she had gotten into difficulty or that she had been kidnapped by a stranger. All of them were certain that Marlon was involved in her disappearance. Furthermore, they suspected his mother, Marlon, rather than the young man himself. The Martinez family undoubtedly knew Emily's whereabouts, Adalgisa told reporters bluntly, but they would not provide the girl's location. The reason was that Marlon was attempting to persuade his son's fiancée to stop the pregnancy via a message that Genaro, the father of the missing girl, had unintentionally discovered on his daughter's phone. A kid produced outside of marriage was unnecessary for someone as significant as Marlon's mother thought herself to be. Emily's parents were certain that Marlon wanted to end the unintended pregnancy in some way. For days before to Emily's disappearance, on August 19, 2017, these communications were received. The message's main idea was that Marlon was giving the girl the option to terminate her illness at home. The lady said she would see to it that everything went well. Emily first flatly refused, but after becoming weary of the trickery, she said she would put her confidence in the mature, seasoned lady. Suspicion of the Martinez family grew even greater when Genaro reported this exchange. The most concerning indication, however, was that Marlon hurried to get legal counsel as soon as Emily was formally reported missing. If you have nothing to do with the disappearance, hiring a lawyer isn't really reasonable. Rumors about this case began to circulate in the community when the girl still hadn't arrived after a day. Other residents of the village, in addition to Emily's family, now accused the Martinez family of being responsible for her abduction. The father of the family, Genaro, was very worried about what would happen to his daughter. Where and how she had spent that August evening was beyond his comprehension. Was she in good health, or was she in agony somewhere? It was a terrible and severe scenario. Even though he remained tough and suppressed his feelings in public, he was unable to control his tears of sadness when he was alone himself. The guy was aware that his weeping would make everyone close to him lose hope for a good ending. Marlon and Marlon made the decision to conduct a news conference to deny suspicions and demonstrate their innocence when the community as a whole learned about the pregnant girl's abduction and the participation of her boyfriend's family. Due to her extensive network, Marlon asked a number of reporters to assist in swiftly debunking the falsehoods around her family. The Martinez home's living room served as the venue for the news conference. Emily's boyfriend Marlon was wearing a standard t-shirt for a more relaxed look. The young guy was rather anxious and kept his head down throughout the interview. He was trembling, and it was obvious. Marlon, however, was wearing a business suit. She had her hair done and exuded confidence. During the discussion, the former provincial mayor took the lead. She handled herself nicely and had public speaking expertise. However, the first inquiries were directed at her son. When they were going to the clinic, Emily realized she had confused the dates, and he stopped her off at the gas station, among other things, and the youngster repeated the narrative. At last, Marlon turned to face the camera and started pleading with his fiancée to come home. He said that while there were issues in their relationship, as in most others, all of their loved ones had come to terms with the unplanned pregnancy and were excitedly anticipating the baby's birth. Then, unable to contain his emotions, he looked into the camera and spoke to Emily Peguero wherever she may be. He said that he was ready to welcome her. Because Marlon was escorting Emily's grandma to the consulate that morning to file some paperwork, his mother then took the floor to declare that all of the accusations about their family were completely false and that the Martinezes had nothing to do with Emily being missing. This lady attempted to exploit the missing girl's trip as an alibi in order to highlight their strong relationship with her family. Marlon persisted in highlighting Emily's closeness to them and their devotion for her throughout the session. She said that they were now as concerned for the girl as they were about the Peguero family, since she had already become a member of their family while carrying her grandchild in her womb. As previously, Marlon addressed her son's girlfriend while staring straight into the camera, pleading with her to inform them of her location and to save them pain. She seemed to be struggling to contain her feelings as she spoke about it, even breaking down in tears. Because they had nothing to conceal, Marlon encouraged anybody who was willing to ask them or her son whatever questions they were interested in doing so to do so. Confusion resulted from Marlon's mother's news appearance. A lot of people thought it was odd and questioned why the Martinezes hadn't invited Emily Peguero's family to speak as well. The majority of Shinova locals were only persuaded that the news conference was an effort to defend themselves because actions spoke louder than words. Since suspicions had begun to circulate that the Martinez family was responsible for the girl's abduction, it must be true that there could be no smoke without fire. Emily was mentioned in the past tense by both mother and son throughout the meeting. Everyone believed they understood something about the girl and what had happened to her because of this little clue. The public believed that this was a typical instance in which a wealthy, powerful family just chose to get rid of a young, impoverished girl in order to preserve their own image. Generally speaking, the press conference further fueled the flames rather than allaying popular fears. Marlon visited the Peguero family's home in spite of the suspicions that were leveled against him from all directions. The boy made the decision to turn himself into the police after noticing the distressed expressions on his neighbors' faces, knowing that he would probably be taken into custody and questioned. As the primary suspect, Marlon was in fact taken into custody and sent to a correctional facility on August 26, 2017. However, it was still unclear whether Emily Peguero was still alive. 5 days after the girl vanished, the local police made a breakthrough after detectives searched everywhere for her. They were able to figure out Emily's phone's geolocation on Monday, August 28th. The most recent phone call came from an apartment complex in the affluent San Francisco de Macorís neighborhood. The apartment of Marla Martinez was there. Their mother often traveled on work and resided in this apartment, while the children lived in Shannon with their stepfather, Roberto. Several blood-stained towels and blood spatter on the mattress were found during a check of the property. The forensic laboratory received these goods. Police interrogated possible witnesses in the meanwhile. The security guy at the apartment complex disclosed startling facts 2 days later. According to the guy, security footage saw Marlon leaving the premises with a big suitcase and packing it into his vehicle on the day Emily vanished on August 23rd. The guard's only option was to give the young man's mother a call. Marlon went downstairs to see the tapes in person. The lady grew visibly agitated as she watched, seized her head, and started to scream. The video recording also vanished after a while. The guard didn't know where it had gone, but didn't rule out that Martinez may have somehow taken it. A large portion of the public's growing ire was aimed at Martinez's mother. She was widely suspected of being responsible for Emily's disappearance. People who knew what Marlon was like were confident she was covering for her son, using riches and power. Marlon Martinez appeared to the police station and gave herself into the authorities on the day the guard informed the police about the stolen videotape. Everyone believed she was just waiting to be arrested, but her lawyer maintained she did this merely to help with the authorities. When questioned by a reporter after her arrest about her involvement in Emily Peguero's disappearance, Marlon said that she was only acting as a mother and protecting her kid. Many individuals were moved by these statements. As a mother, it seemed that she had eliminated someone else's daughter and, worse, a girl who was expecting her grandchild. At last, the pieces of the jigsaw began to fit together. The detectives had a very stressful day on August 30th, 2017. First, a security guard told them about damning video. Marla Martinez then surrendered herself to the police. Her son, Marlon, confessed to the police later that day. The darkest worries of the Peguero family were validated. The young guy acknowledged that Emily had passed away. He admitted to detectives that he had dumped her corpse at a nearby landfill. The whole town, in addition to the girl's loved ones, was taken aback by this revelation. The tale of the young pregnant girl had touched many, and they were still holding out hope that Emily could still be alive. However, their hearts were broken by the boyfriend's revelation. Marlon and the police went to the nearby garbage to look for the girl's corpse. Enraged villagers swarmed the police vehicle as soon as they came to a halt close to the landfill. People wanted to communicate their feelings to the offender face to face. In order to separate the gathering, officers even had to use warning shots. The police didn't take the chance of allowing Marlon to exit the vehicle. They searched through rubbish and trash for more than 8 hours without finding anything. Residents of Chav demonstrated their displeasure the next morning by blocking roadways at 9 a.m. and demanding that Marlon stop messing with the Peguero family's emotions and tell the police where he concealed Emily's corpse. They threatened to demolish the Martinez house, flung stones, and burnt tires. In order to restore order, police even had to take action. An hour's drive from Chav, in Espat province, a corpse was found later that day, answering the prayers of worried locals and parents. Emily's elder brother's phone messenger was inundated with messages from a variety of individuals. They all reported the discovery of an unidentified girl's corpse in the nearby province. The Peguero family, police, and other family members went to the location to find out Emily's fate. They arrived after dusk, with just police lights and spotlights illuminating the blackness. The corpse of Emily Peguero, a 16-year-old girl who was 5 months pregnant, was in a suitcase in the middle of a throng that had gathered by the side of the road. The corpse was taken out of the suitcase and taken to the office of the medical examiner. There was not much delay in the autopsy. Emily was discovered to have had internal bleeding, most likely as a result of an unsuccessful effort to end her pregnancy. Additionally, she had been struck in the head by a blunt object. According to the forensic analysis, the girl probably didn't have time to comprehend what had occurred since death came so swiftly. Regretfully, the public and the Peguero family were correct from the beginning. Marlon and his mother, Marlon, were unhappy about Emily's pregnancy, which is why all of this occurred. They were determined to get rid of everyone who would harm their reputation. Everyone was incensed when the autopsy findings were revealed. At that point, the missing girl's tale had gone viral. Social media was inundated with pictures of her wearing a traditional red Dominican outfit. In an effort to rally support, a number of celebrities took notice of this and disseminated information about Peguero to their millions of followers. The hashtag #WeAreAllEmily was used by the girl's family to start a campaign. Because the Martinezes were powerful and affluent, family members didn't want them to get away with it. In order to exert pressure on authorities and keep this issue from being forgotten, communities came together. The parents had to confront a painful reality as others on the internet shared their thoughts about the tragedy. In a white coffin, Emily Peguero was laid to rest. With pink balloons in hand, a large crowd gathered to say goodbye to her. Numerous people brought flowers for Emily and presents for the Peguero family to offer their support at such a difficult time. The cops worked on their investigation in the meanwhile. They learned that Marlon hadn't brought Emily to the gas station that morning, as he had told her sister and reporters. This whole thing was a lie. He had messaged Peguero's sister, Adalgiza, via her cell phone to hide this. Emily's mother wasn't incorrect when she suspected its legitimacy. Marlon led the girl to his mother's vacant apartment instead of the gas station, where he had her take an unidentified substance that could have caused her pregnancy to end. Internal bleeding resulted from this. Emily grew afraid and may have lunged at her partner or attempted to get away. He misjudged his strength and shoved her. Peguero banged her head after falling. She passed away nearly immediately. Marlon killed Emily, put her corpse in a bag, left his mother's apartment, and carried the weight onto his car's back seat. At that moment, he was captured on video at the apartment complex. Unable to come up with a better idea, the young guy drove around town and threw the bag carrying his girlfriend's corpse from a bridge into the ground. He immediately contacted his mother and informed her what he had done. She was requested by Marlon to assist in properly hiding the corpse so that it wouldn't be found right away. A security guard phoned her later that day and played the tape for her. Marlon sought assistance after realizing her kid may wind up in jail. Marlon, his son, and two accomplices spoke on what to do with Peguero's corpse early on August 24th. She insisted on fixing the error because she was upset that her son hadn't considered hiding the girl's remains in a remote location. To assist in re-hiding the remains, the lady bought off a friend. The guy proceeded to the area under the bridge where Emily's corpse was in the bag. About an hour's journey from Cheno, he moved the corpse into a suitcase and left it by the side of the road. When the luggage was found, he hoped it wouldn't be connected to Emily's disappearance. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's crucial. In the end, the police detained 4 other people in addition to the Martinezes: 2 workers, Marlon's brother, and a close friend. All 4, however, spent some time in a prison facility before being freed since they consented to testify and serve as witnesses. These individuals assisted the authorities and were not directly engaged in the crime. The only people ultimately put on trial for Emily's death were Marlon and his mother, Marlon. The trial was highly stressful. Every week of the pre-trial hearings in the 9 months after the girl's death featured a fresh dramatic event. Some proceedings were boycotted by Peguero family members. A number of defense lawyers pulled out. Protests were organized by local activists outside the courthouse. Cheno's common citizens threatened to hurt Marlon and his mother. It grew so bad that Marlon had to be taken to the courts wearing a protective helmet and a ballistic vest. Otherwise, she would have been ripped to pieces by the angry populace. Peguero, Emily Peguero's father, was taken into custody in April after trying to enter the courtroom with a gun. The bag in which the girl was discovered, as well as some clothes and shoes, were brought in by the prosecution when they made the decision to reconstruct the murder scene. The investigating experiment had to be carried out outside due to the evidence's powerful stink. The prosecution team showed the location of the corpse and the process of removing it from the bag as everyone gathered outside in the parking lot. The Peguero family found it very difficult to observe this protest. Grief had already broken them, and now they had to go through it all again. According to the defense lawyer, Marlon had no intention of killing his fiancée that morning and was thus innocent of her death. Over the course of the inquiry, Marlon's own account was altered 3 times. He first admitted to killing Emily and disposing of her remains at the landfill. On the second occasion, the young guy said that Peguero had taken a tablet herself because she was experiencing severe pregnancy-related discomfort and that this drug was the cause of her death. According to the third version, his mother was completely uninvolved and unaware of Emily's death. Marlon lost all credibility as a result of his contradictory reports. According to the Peguero family's attorney, Marlon felt it would be preferable for Emily to just vanish rather than take her to the hospital and jeopardize his freedom after his effort to forcefully end the pregnancy failed. Neither the discovery of her corpse nor the community's response were anything he had expected. The attorney wasn't scared of Marlon's connections and publicly blasted the Martinez family. The people was impressed by his words and deeds. Adeliza was the most affected member of the Peguero family. While Marlon developed her profession, she took care of this kid and his siblings, feeding them, putting them to bed, and watching over them. Her youngest daughter had now been killed by one of her charges. The family felt like they were being slapped in the face. Emily's relatives really thought that Emily's death was the product of a botched intervention and that everything that transpired was because Marlon didn't want her son to have a kid with a girl from a low-income home. However, this in no way excused her from being dumped by the side of the road like an unwanted item. The trial was long and very stressful. A 3-judge court convicted Marlon Martinez of deliberately killing Emily Peguero in November 2018 and gave him a 30-year jail term. Marlon Martinez, his mother, was convicted of kidnapping him and hiding the corpse. She only received a 5-year jail term. Shouts of rage broke out in the courtroom as the decision was announced. People were shocked that after what she had done to Emily, this lady would only be imprisoned for 5 years. People demonstrated against the sentencing, calling for Marlon to serve at least 20 years in jail. However, the court's ruling did not alter. Marlon's attorney said that he intended to file an appeal, claiming that the young man's only goal was to help his girlfriend resolve their common issue rather than kill Emily. Simply put, things didn't go as he had hoped. As simple as that. The Martinezes were sentenced and were had to compensate the Peguero family financially. However, money couldn't buy their daughter back. The parents felt they didn't get justice, even though that was all they sought. On May 15, 2019, an appeals court lowered Marlon's sentence to only 2 years, dealing them the next blow to their hearts. The explanation was that there was no concrete evidence that the lady had committed a crime. She was just aware of her son's misbehavior and chose not to notify the authorities. A court then essentially ordered Marlon Martinez's immediate release in September 2020. Her relationships could have contributed to this. A mob was yelling taunts at the jail as Marlon departed the detention institution. However, Marlon is now at liberty and quietly residing in the United States. Despite having exceptional privileges while inside, her son Marlon is still there. Rumor had it that he had gotten another 16-year-old girl pregnant. It seems that Marlon was sometimes let to go and then returned by guards. This was nothing like the victory of justice. Genaro, Emily's father, recalls going into his daughter's room to bid her farewell and give her a forehead kiss before he left for work. This recollection breaks his heart since it was a part of their everyday routine. Emily's brother composed a 4-minute song in remembrance of his sister, detailing all of her experiences. In the song video, the brother just gets up and smashes the TV when he sees Marlon acting like he's crying at a press conference. Emily's bedroom is still exactly how she left it before she passed away. The window is covered with neon pink curtains, and the headboard is adorned with red paper hearts, which stand for love. A framed picture of the Pope, a little figure of Jesus, and a stack of handcrafted bracelets are all on her bedside table. In the closet, among her assortment of plush animals, are folded clothing. The room's sole recent addition is a collage of pictures and notes created by Emily's school children in her honor. Femicide rates are among the highest in the world in Latin America. Approximately 200 crimes against women are committed in the Dominican Republic each year. Since not all crimes are recorded, the actual number is substantially greater. The remains of two 18-year-old females were found by the police when they were looking for Emily's body. Her partner murdered one, and her stepfather killed the other. The whole Dominican Republic was appalled by the savagery of the murder and the participation of a government figure, even though Emily Peguero's death was just one instance among many. The narrative comes to an end here. Comment with your opinions and like the video. See you soon.